Mia pressed her palm gently against the fogged-up glass door of Rosie's diner, her breath catching for a second as the morning chill crept into her bones. The flickering neon sign buzzed above, casting a dim pink hue over the scuffed linoleum and torn vinyl booths that had become as familiar to her as her own heartbeat. This place, with all its imperfections and tired charm, was more than just her workplace. It was a lifeline, but lately, even that lifeline felt like it was slipping through her fingers. At 28, Mia carried the weight of years she never planned for. Her mother's long illness had consumed not just time, but every cent of savings and credit she had. The apartment rent was overdue. The fridge echoed with emptiness. Most nights she fell asleep with a churning knot of worry in her stomach and woke up to the same gnawing dread, but she still clung to something her mother once told her. Words she repeated like a prayer. Kindness will light your path even when the world goes dark. That promise, however fragile, was what kept her putting one foot in front of the other. Stepping behind the counter, Mia found Carla, the manager, stationed like a sentry by the register. Carla's arms were crossed tightly over her chest, her narrowed eyes hard as steel. "You're late," Carla barked, her voice cold and clipped. The clock said Mia was 5 minutes over, but Carla's radar had no tolerance for error, especially not when she was itching to wield authority like a blade. "Sorry, the bus," Mia began, but Carla cut her off with a sharp wave of her hand. "Save it. 2 tables are already waiting. Move." Mia inhaled slowly, grounding herself. Pushing back wouldn't do her any good. Carla thrived on conflict, and Mia couldn't afford to give her ammunition. She shed her coat, hung it on the hook in the back, grabbed a handful of menus and stepped onto the floor with a practiced smile. It wasn't fake, not exactly. It was just layered over exhaustion, like sunshine fighting through clouds. Her first table was a family of 4, seated quietly, their clothes a little too worn, their eyes a little too wary. The mother looked utterly spent, the father fixated on the menu like it was a math problem he couldn't solve. Mia recognized the look. They were counting pennies, not calories. "Good morning," Mia said gently, her voice like a warm blanket. "We've got a pancake special today if you'd like." The mother hesitated, then nodded faintly. "We'll just share 2 orders," she whispered, her eyes flitting apologetically to her children. Mia's heart tugged. She knew those portions wouldn't fill them, but she smiled anyway and nodded. "Absolutely. I'll bring a few extra plates, too." In the next booth sat Mr. Davies, one of the diner's quietest regulars. His jacket was threadbare and his hands trembled as he tried to gather the coins in front of him. "Morning, Mr. Davies," she said warmly. "Your usual cup of coffee?" He looked up, his eyes clouded with embarrassment. "I'm a bit short today, dear. Just water for me." "Nonsense," Mia replied, her smile unwavering. "Coffee's on me." His face lit up with quiet gratitude. That one moment of relief in his eyes was worth far more than the coffee she'd just given away. As Mia poured the steaming brew into his chipped mug, Carla swooped in like a hawk. "Mia," she hissed, her voice low and venom-laced. "This isn't a soup kitchen. If I catch you giving away one more freebie, it's coming out of your paycheck. Got it?" Mia's throat tightened. She nodded without a word, swallowing the anger that burned in her chest. Carla had made similar threats before, and Mia knew better than to fight back. Still, turning a blind eye to someone's hunger felt like a betrayal of everything her mother had taught her. Then, from the corner booth, someone new, or at least someone everyone assumed was new, settled into the seat quietly. He wore a brown jacket that had seen better days and jeans faded from long hours on the road. He looked like a tired truck driver stopping in for a bite between routes. That's what everyone thought. But he wasn't just any customer. His name was Daniel, and unknown to the staff, Daniel was the undercover owner of Rosie's Diner. He had been coming in for weeks now, sitting quietly, observing, not with suspicion but with genuine curiosity. He wasn't just measuring employee performance, he was trying to understand the soul of the place. Mia approached his booth like she did every other, her tone bright and her steps light, no matter how heavy her heart felt. "Morning," Daniel said, his voice gentle and warm. "Black coffee and a breakfast special, please." "You got it," Mia replied, jotting down the order. There was something about his eyes that made her pause, not in fear, but in familiarity, like he was seeing past the surface and into the heart of things. As Daniel sipped his coffee and watched, Mia returned to her rounds. The family of four finished their meal quietly, trying not to draw attention. When they left, she found a folded note tucked beneath the check. "Breakfast is on me. Have a wonderful day." She stared at the handwriting for a long moment, her chest tightened, eyes stinging with unexpected emotion. They had so little, and yet they still gave. And that, perhaps, was the truest kind of wealth. By the time Mia returned to clear the family's table, they were already gone. All that remained was a crumpled napkin with a simple message scrawled in messy handwriting. "Thank you." A small gesture, yet it struck a deep chord within her. But before she could process the emotion, Carla's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Mia!" she snapped, appearing out of nowhere, her heels clicking with authority across the diner floor. She cornered Mia near the kitchen, where she was balancing a stack of greasy dishes. "I know what you're doing, giving away food again," Carla hissed, snatching the receipt from Mia's hand. "This one's coming straight out of your paycheck." She didn't wait for a reply. With a tight sneer, she turned and stormed off toward the register. Mia stood frozen, the plates rattling faintly in her shaking hands, her throat constricted with a mix of shame and quiet fury. She was already barely scraping by, between rent, groceries, and the lingering medical bills from her mother's illness. Now she would be punished for an act of compassion. It felt cruelly unfair, like the universe kept asking her to choose between survival and humanity. But even through the sting of Carla's words, Mia knew she wouldn't take back what she'd done. If someone was hungry, how could she turn them away? Moments later, Daniel's breakfast order was ready. Mia straightened her spine, wiped her eyes quickly with her sleeve, and slipped back into her practiced smile as she delivered the plate. "Thank you," Daniel said, nodding with calm sincerity. He ate slowly, thoughtfully, taking in the space around him. Not just the food, but the undercurrents in the room. Carlo's voice boomed from the kitchen again, berating another worker over inventory costs. The tension was thick in the air, palpable as smoke. As Mia passed by with a refill for Mr. Davis's coffee, she caught Daniel's eye and offered a faint, apologetic smile. It said more than words could. "This is how it always is here." When Daniel finished his meal, he pulled out his wallet, but instead of reaching for a card, he folded a bill around a small note and slid it across the table. "This is for your kindness," he said gently, "and for all the unseen good you do." Mia blinked, caught off guard. She tucked the note into her apron with a grateful nod, planning to read it later. Customers sometimes left warm words or small tips, but something about Daniel's calm sincerity made her heart flutter. He stood, gave her one last kind glance, and walked out. Once he was gone, Mia saw her chance. Carla was preoccupied arguing with the dishwasher. She ducked into the back hallway and unfolded the note. What she saw made her breath catch. $1,000 tip. Real money. Crisp and life-altering. But it was the words that undid her. "Keep shining your light. Thank you for showing what real compassion looks like. D." The edges of her vision blurred with tears. She clutched the note to her chest, trying to muffle the sob that rose unbidden in her throat. She hadn't felt this kind of relief in years. an almost sacred sensation, like something heavy had been lifted off her soul. That tip wasn't just money. It was recognition. It was validation that being kind, even when it cost her, still mattered. Back on the floor, she composed herself as best she could. She didn't know who Daniel really was, but no ordinary customer left behind a gesture like that. That night, as she climbed the creaky stairs to her cramped apartment, exhaustion wrapped around her like a shroud. She flipped on the single flickering bulb overhead. The apartment was as modest as it got. Peeling wallpaper, mismatched furniture from yard sales, and a second-hand couch with springs that poked through the cushions. But for once, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. She sat down and carefully pulled the folded money from her apron. It didn't feel real. She counted it, touched it, reread the note a dozen times. The sobs came back, softer now, an emotional release rather than despair. Gratitude, fierce and overwhelming, bubbled up as she whispered a quiet thank you to a man who may never know just what he'd given her. The rent could be paid tonight. She could restock the pantry. Maybe, just maybe, she could even chip away at the monstrous medical debt. Her world, which had been teetering on collapse, now had the faint outline of a second chance. And she vowed, silently and fiercely, to keep living by the words in that note, to shine her light even when it burned. The next morning, tension filled the diner like smoke from a kitchen fire. Even before Mia clocked in, Carla's voice rang out, barking at the line cooks and slamming pots. Mia kept her head down, moving table to table with quiet focus. But every time she passed Carla, she could feel those cold eyes on her, laser-focused on her apron pocket, as if expecting to catch her stealing the silverware. Then came Tina. Tall, sleek, always with a hint of superiority in her smirk, Tina glided over like she owned the place. "I saw you talking to that trucker yesterday," she said, voice low, conspiratorial. "Left you a big tip, huh?" Mia's breath hitched. "Just a standard tip," she said, voice careful, guarded. Tina raised a sculpted brow. "Oh, really? Because I could have sworn I saw you wiping your eyes after reading something." Mia turned away, busying herself with the coffee pot. "It was just a kind message," she muttered. "Well, must be nice," Tina drawled, tossing her perfectly curled hair. "Getting rewarded for all that charity work, but you know Carla's watching. She doesn't like freebies." Mia kept her back turned. "I know." Tina leaned in closer, her voice like honeyed poison. "Just watch yourself. Would be a shame if someone misunderstood your intentions." The threat hung in the air, subtle yet unmistakable. Mia walked away, heart pounding. She didn't think Tina would go so far as to sabotage her, but doubt had a way of whispering in her ear. By late afternoon, Daniel returned, sliding into his usual booth. This time he ordered a burger and fries, nothing flashy. Mia greeted him with a smile that was equal parts warm and nervous. She wanted to thank him, properly, but Carla was hovering, barking at the cooks, her glare always sweeping the floor like a searchlight. Mia delivered the order and slipped away, cheeks warm. During a rare lull, she risked a glance toward Daniel. He was watching her again, not in a creepy way, but with quiet curiosity. Maybe he was a journalist, she thought, maybe writing a human interest story on small-town diners. The idea both excited and terrified her. What if Carla found out? Finally, as he finished his food, she approached again. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice tentative. "It's great," Daniel said with a nod. "You're doing an excellent job, as always." Mia hesitated. "I appreciated your kindness yesterday. That was unexpected." Daniel looked at her with that same calm steadiness. "You do a lot for people who have nothing. That matters." Before she could say more, a loud crash came from the kitchen, Carla slamming cups down in frustration. The moment broke. Mia murmured a quick thank you and fled. Daniel left another tip, not nearly as large but still generous, and quietly exited as the dinner rush swelled. But that wasn't the end. Tina was just getting started. It started with the small things. A pile of napkins scattered across the floor near Mia's station, a sugar container inexplicably disappearing during her shift, only to reappear behind the register hours later, where Carla insisted Mia had left it. Every incident came with Tina hovering nearby, offering a saccharine shrug and wide-eyed innocence. But the real blow landed that evening. Mia was mid-shift, totaling up a young family's check with a gentle smile, when Carla came stomping across the diner floor. Her face was a storm cloud ready to burst. "Mia, back office, now." The room froze. Mia's stomach dropped. Her heart pounded in her ears as she followed Carla through the narrow hallway into the cluttered back office. Tina was already there, arms folded tightly across her chest, lips pursed in fake concern. Carla didn't waste time. Tina found this in the break room. She shoved a wad of crumpled bills inches from Mia's face. "Care to explain why diner cash was hidden in your apron pocket?" Mia stared, stunned. I don't know where that came from." Tina raised her eyebrows in theatrical disbelief. "I saw her hanging around the register earlier. Maybe she got tempted." "That's not true." Mia's voice cracked with desperation. "I've never stolen anything." But Carla wasn't listening. Her icy glare didn't budge. "You're always giving away food and coffee. Were you trying to cover it up by stealing from the till?" Panic flared in Mia's chest. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. The $1,000 tip Daniel had given her was safe at home in her purse. This money wasn't hers, and she knew it. Someone had planted it. "Please, check the drawer logs," she begged, voice trembling. "Check the security footage." Carla cut her off with a raised hand. "Enough. Hand over your apron, clock out. You're suspended until I figure out what to do with this mess." Tears stung Mia's eyes. She looked at Tina, who gave a tiny, almost regretful shrug, like she wasn't enjoying this at all, even though Mia could see the quiet satisfaction behind her eyes. Without a word, Mia unfastened her apron and placed it on the desk. Her fingers brushed the frayed edges one last time before she turned and walked out. Her legs felt like lead as she made her way down the back hallway. She heard Carla muttering something about contacting the diner's owner and reporting the theft. That word, owner, rattled through her. If the owner heard she was accused of stealing, would he fire her outright, shut down the diner entirely? Either way, it would be over. Everything. Her job, her last sliver of stability. The cool night air hit her like a slap as she pushed open the back door. She didn't bother hiding her tears now. They poured freely, mixing with the ache of betrayal that burned in her chest. What had started as a hopeful day had unraveled into a waking nightmare. Over the next few days, Mia barely left her apartment. The silence inside felt heavier than ever. Without the familiar clatter of the diner and the comfort of routine, her thoughts turned dark. She couldn't stop replaying every detail in Carla's office. The look in her eyes, the disbelief, the accusation. She finally worked up the courage to check her mailbox. A heavy envelope from the electric company, a warning from the water utility, another from the landlord, final notice before eviction. Only the tip from Daniel kept her afloat. She used it to cover part of the rent, pushing back the eviction deadline by a couple more weeks. Still, the guilt gnawed at her. That money had been meant for her mother's hospital bills, but what good would paying a hospital from the street do? She applied to jobs, online, anywhere, cafes, shops, even babysitting gigs. But in a small town like this, word spread fast. The rumors painted her a thief, and in the eyes of many, that was enough. Then, one afternoon, a knock. She hesitated. Most knocks lately meant bill collectors or nosy neighbors, But when she opened the door, her breath caught. Mr. Davies stood there, leaning on his cane, holding a plastic bag of groceries in his other hand. "Mr. Mia stammered. "How did you—" "Carla said you were taking time off," he said gently, avoiding the words she couldn't bear to hear. "You forgot to give me my senior discount. Figured I'd track you down." He managed a faint smile. "A friend at church told me where you live." Mia's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Davies. There was an incident." He raised a hand to stop her. "No need. You've been kind to me more times than I can count. It's only right I return the favor." He handed her the bag. Canned soup, a loaf of bread, some apples. "It's not much, but I hope it helps." Mia choked out a thank you, her hands shaking. That small act of kindness reminded her that not everyone believed the worst about her. Later that night, she tried calling the diner. No answer. Again. She checked social media in a desperate scroll and found something unexpected. A group of regulars had started an online petition. Bring back Mia. Stories flooded the comment section. Tales of her paying for coffee, slipping cash to those in need, always showing up with a smile. The words made her cry for a different reason this time. But one name was missing. Why hadn't he spoken up? Didn't he believe in her? A terrible doubt began to twist in her chest. Maybe he was just a rich passerby after all. Or maybe Tina had poisoned his view of her too. That night, unable to sleep, Mia sat staring at the ceiling until headlights swept across her wall. Her heart jumped. She peeked out the curtain. A sleek black car. Daniel stepped out. But this wasn't his usual truck. What was he doing here? She cracked the front door open, barely daring to breathe. From her second-floor landing, she had a clear view of the parking lot. And Daniel. He wasn't alone. Carla stood beneath a flickering street lamp, arms crossed, her voice cutting through the stillness. Though Mia couldn't hear every word, she caught fragments of financial records, staff behavior, closure risk. Daniel stood calmly, listening, not arguing, not defending. And that's when it hit her. Daniel wasn't just some kind-hearted drifter. He was the owner, and he had been watching everything. Mia stood frozen, watching from the shadows as Daniel, the man whose kindness had once seemed so pure, spoke in hushed tones with Carla, the very person who had nearly destroyed her life. Her fists clenched involuntarily, rage mixing with a deep ache in her chest. Was he part of the setup? Had his generous tip been a test, a cruel trick to observe her reaction before letting Carla brand her a thief? Fueled by a storm of adrenaline and pain, Mia didn't wait another second. She shoved her feet into her sneakers and bolted down the apartment stairs, her heart thudding violently with every step. By the time she burst into the parking lot, Daniel and Carla were heading toward his sleek black car. "Daniel," she shouted, breathless but determined. "I need to talk to you." Both heads turned. Carla's expression twisted into a sneer of disbelief. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "You're supposed to be—" "Stop," Mia cut in, her voice shaking but unyielding. Her gaze locked onto Daniel. "Why are you meeting with her? What's going on?" Carla took a step forward, ready to dominate the conversation as usual, but Daniel raised a hand, silencing her instantly. Then he took a slow, cautious step toward Mia. "Mia," he said gently, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "Find out what?" she snapped. Her voice cracked under the weight of confusion and betrayal. "That you've been working with Carla? That you were watching me like a test subject?" Daniel's face softened with regret, but he didn't flinch. "No, that's not it." Mia's world tilted. She glanced between him and Carla, the anxiety in her chest rising like a tide. "Then tell me the truth. Who are you?" He hesitated, then exhaled a long breath. I own Rosie's Diner. I've been going undercover the past few weeks to see how the place really operates." The words landed like a thunderclap. "What?" Mia whispered. Daniel continued, voice calm but serious. "I needed to know what the customer experience was really like, how the staff treated each other, whether the diner was worth saving, or if I needed to shut it down." Mia's knees felt weak. All the quiet conversations, the kind glances, the mysterious generosity, it wasn't chance. It had all been by design. "To the $1,000 tip was part of the test?" she asked, voice cracking as fresh tears welled in her eyes. "And then you let Carla suspend me and didn't say a word?" Daniel's eyes darkened with empathy. "I never wanted you to be hurt, but I needed proof. If I stepped in too soon, we wouldn't have uncovered the truth." He turned briefly to Carla. "And the truth is, Tina's been stealing from the register. I just confirmed it, and she tried to blame you." Mia reeled. For days, she had lived under a cloud of suspicion, her name tarnished, her livelihood taken. Now the fog was lifting, but the light hurt. "You didn't approve my suspension?" she asked, voice hushed. "No, Carla acted on her own." Mia looked at Carla, who was now avoiding both of their gazes, her expression stripped of authority. Daniel turned back to Mia, his voice firmer now. "I'd like you to come back, Mia, if you still want to. We'll clear your name, publicly." She stared at him, emotions tumbling over each other. Relief, grief, fury, disbelief. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Daniel replied. "We need someone like you, someone who leads with kindness." Mia thought of Mr. Davies, of the petition, of the customer who slipped her a note. She remembered the $1,000 tip, the gesture that kept her from losing everything. Slowly she nodded. Daniel's face broke into a gentle smile. Carla let out a frustrated breath and turned away, her control slipping. That next morning, Mia stood outside Rosie's Diner once again. The neon sign buzzed overhead, flickering defiantly in the dawn light. Her palms were sweaty, her stomach knotted. This time, everything was different. Inside, the breakfast rush buzzed as usual, but the air felt charged. Customers filled the booths, but all eyes turned when Mia stepped inside. At the far end of the diner, Daniel and Carla stood near the counter. Daniel nodded at her calmly, while Carla's face was taut with unease. Mia walked in, spine straight, head high. She passed Tina, who was restocking salt shakers with a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mia ignored her. There were bigger things at play. Daniel cleared his throat, his voice carried across the room, calm but resolute. "I think it's time everyone knew the truth. My name is Daniel Mason. I own Rosie's Diner, and for the last few weeks, I've been visiting undercover as a customer." Gasps rippled through the diner. "Some of you suspected something was off," he continued. "And you were right. I've been watching, listening, and I learned that this diner has been suffering. From poor leadership, from internal theft, and from a lack of trust." He glanced at Carla, whose posture tightened. "It's come to my attention that certain employees have been stealing and blaming others. Specifically, Mia was suspended based on false accusations." All eyes turned to her. Mia held her breath. "But we've reviewed security footage and register logs. Tina was taking money from the till, and she framed Mia." "I say blood." Tina backed away, bumping into a booth. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to. My bills." Daniel raised a hand. "That doesn't excuse it. You're terminated, and if the losses exceed what's manageable, I will press charges." Tina broke into tears and rushed out the front door. Silence fell again. Daniel looked at Carla. "And you, Carla. I trusted you to manage this place, but you suspended Mia without real proof. You let rumors run wild, and you created a toxic work environment. I did what I thought was best, she muttered. Daniel's voice was firm. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Carla turned crimson, but no one stood up for her. With a final scoff, she grabbed her purse and stormed out. A strange hush fell. Mia felt as if she were standing in the eye of a storm. Then Daniel turned back to her. Mia, he said softly, your suspension is officially lifted, but I don't just want you back as a server. The room quieted, holding its breath. I want you to manage this place. You've shown more heart, integrity, and leadership than anyone here. You don't just serve food, you serve people. And that's what this diner should be about. Mia blinked. You want me to be manager? Daniel smiled. If you'll have it. The customers started to clap. Soft at first, then louder. Mr. Davies raised his coffee cup from the back booth. A few cooks peeked out from the kitchen with cautious grins. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, but this time they were tears of relief, of validation. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll do it. Daniel nodded, eyes shining. And just like that, Mia's story flipped from despair to redemption. From a framed waitress to the new heart of Rosie's diner. Her journey had been marked by betrayal, but now it was buoyed by belief, and for the first time in a long time she dared to imagine a brighter future. Daniel's words hung in the air like a promise too good to believe. We need someone to rebuild trust with the staff and the community, he said, eyes steady. The diner deserves a manager who leads by example. And I'd like that to be you. Mia's breath caught in her throat. Manager. Her. For years she'd lived moment to moment, trying just to survive. The thought of stepping into a leadership role seemed impossible, almost laughable. She barely managed her own life, let alone others. I don't know if I'm qualified, she whispered. Her voice trembled with uncertainty. I've never managed anything but my own chaos. Daniel chuckled softly, the tension in his face easing. Leadership isn't about a degree hanging on a wall. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. You've been holding this place together through your kindness. That's what we need. His words settled into her like sunlight after a storm. Mia thought of the family she had quietly fed, of Mr. Davies showing up at her door with groceries, of the customers who rallied online to support her, and the strangers who trusted her even when the world didn't. Maybe being a manager wasn't about control, it was about care. About making sure no one was left behind, just as she once feared she would be. A wave of courage rolled through her. All right, she said, nodding slowly. I'll do it, but I'm gonna need your help. Daniel's grin lit up the diner like morning light through dusty blinds. I wouldn't have asked if I wasn't ready to back you up. Then, with warmth in his voice, he turned to the staff and patrons. Everyone, meet your new manager. Let's give her the support she's earned. Applause broke out, first cautious, then thunderous. The cooks peeked out from the kitchen. Regulars raised their coffee cups in salute. Mia's face flushed, not from embarrassment this time, but from a rising, unexpected feeling. Belonging. In the days and weeks that followed, Rosie's diner began to bloom again, not through sweeping renovations, but through something deeper: culture, heart, hope. Carla's old office became Mia's, but she rarely sat behind the desk. More often than not, she was out front, greeting customers, refilling mugs, checking on the kitchen during rushes. She didn't manage from a distance. She led from the floor. Her first change was subtle but powerful. A corkboard titled "Pay It Forward" pinned near the front door. On it, customers could leave sticky notes representing prepaid meals or acts of kindness for anyone who needed them. Within a week, it was filled with colors and handwritten messages, notes of encouragement, small gestures of compassion. It became the diner's soul. Business picked up, former regulars who had once drifted away under Carla's rule returned, the energy shifted, the place felt light. Daniel stayed true to his word. He mentored Mia through everything: inventory systems, budgeting, labor scheduling. Numbers had never been her strength, but she applied herself with the same grit she used to keep her life together, and slowly, she grew into her new role. Staff who once whispered behind her back now sought her advice. Customers asked for her by name. Respect came not from authority, but from consistency. She was there, every day, lifting others even when she had every reason to fall apart. One quiet evening, the diner was closed, the last chair flipped, and the lights dimmed to a soft glow. Mia and Daniel sat at the counter, sipping warm coffee as the hum of the neon sign pulsed outside. She turned to him, a smile curling on her lips. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here? You, an undercover boss, me, a manager." Daniel laughed softly, the sound light and sincere. "Honestly, I didn't expect to find someone who made me rethink how business works." Mia raised an eyebrow, curious. "You taught me something," he continued, "that compassion is a strength, not a weakness. You showed me a business can make a living and still make a difference." She looked down at her coffee, heart swelling with something far more powerful than pride: fulfillment. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," he said firmly. "Thank you. You reminded me why I started this place to begin with." As they stepped out into the chilly night air, flipping the closed sign, Mia glanced at the windows, clean, glowing, and full of promise. Reflections danced across the glass, shadows of everything they'd built, not with money, but with meaning. Mia wrapped her arms around herself, the crisp wind brushing her face, and in her heart a voice echoed, soft and certain, her mother's words. "Kindness will light the way even when all else goes dark." And now, standing beneath that flickering sign, she finally believed it. Because Rosie's Diner didn't just survive, it came back to life. And so did she.